Yeah, the picture's blue in this one. The Lords of Salem, directed by Rob Zombie, starring his wife, who plays his wife. There's not really much acting going on with her, to be quite honest with you. All acting aside, however, this movie in itself is probably one of Rob Zombie's best. At least I think it's one of his highest rated, from what I hear anyway. A lot of people talk about this more positively than they do The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses. And a lot of people apparently like The Devil's Rejects, so fair point. This movie in itself is actually a beautifully directed, beautiful looking movie. There's a lot of kind of elements of, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, especially with like hallway scenes, and the theatre scene. Very reminiscent to, the hallway scenes from The Shining, and also the kind of bar scene from The Shining as well. It's going to get elements of The Wicker Man as well in it, but, it's all in a hallway. I know that sounds weird, but hey, this is a Rob Zombie movie, so we can't be too subjective. The guy in itself knows how to direct a movie. Now, we've seen that, and that's fine, but he doesn't really know how to write a story, in my opinion. So what is the story for the Lords of Salem? Well, Sherry Moon Zombie, because that's what I'm going to call her. I don't care about her character, Hedy, or whatever. The fact is, she's playing herself, and I can clearly tell that she's playing herself, because she kind of plays this same character, although toned down in most other movies. I'm just going to be honest. This isn't like a female Tom Hanks here who can actually change her persona. She plays near enough the same person, and that's serviceable because, Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone, they kind of play the same characters as well. So it's serviceable and whatever else. So this dreadlocked, tattooed rocker chick is a DJ with two other people. Now, when I done my What's Wrong with Rob Zombie movies, I said that there wasn't any people that you could really empathise with. Well, he actually put in two. I asked for one, he gave two, so congratulations on that. Not that he was fucking listening, I mean, this movie was done 3 years ago, but still. The two characters that she does the DJ show with, are actually quite enjoyable to watch. They have a little banter between each other, and when they have a host, when they have someone on, and they kind of are a little bit dickish, they play sound effects within them, but it's not overshadowing who they are. They're just people that look out for each other, and they get on well with each other. So that in itself is actually pretty good. This whole tone of the movie starts off pretty underwhelming, and it doesn't get any better. Now, normally I would say, with Kubrick, with a lot better directors, I'd say, that underwhelming tone starts to become overshadowed with all the things that happen, and instead of being underwhelmed, you get immersed into this, I dare say, realistic atmosphere, and then when all this shit starts happening, it starts to affect you a lot more, because it's kind of out of left, well, it's not out of left field, but it's like you were embraced in this realism, so you have that realistic look and that realistic theme, and then when things start coming in that really shouldn't be happening in this realistic world, it affects you a lot more. And I know how Rob Zombie was going about that, because he even says it in Q&As. It doesn't really work in this movie, however, because this movie's continuous build-up. So they get in the radio DJ, they get a box sent to Sherry Moon Zombie, and they play it, and then it makes people trans, or certain women trans. Yeah, you can see my tattoo. There's certain women that go into a trance. There's a lot of nudity in this movie as well. There's a lot of older women nudity. So if you like older women nudity, knock yourself out. Don't watch this movie, just knock yourself out. That's a little weird. To each his own, I guess. And basically, they're in a trance, but nothing really comes of it. They just go in a trance. Or maybe that's the beginning of the plot. I don't know. It doesn't really go anywhere, because you find out. I'm just going to fucking ruin it. So, Sherry Moon Zombie lives in a kind of hotel or apartment complex, which is run by a woman. That woman ends up with her two friends being witches, and they drug, maybe? Sherry Moon Zombie's character is a drug addict, or an ex-drug addict that goes back into drugs. So, I guess there's this element of, is she just tripping out, or is this really happening? But these three women end up making a lot of things happen, and yeah, it's about a baby being born, I think. I'm not sure. It wasn't really discussed too much. There's a scene in it where a priest is talking about a war between heaven and hell, and then he gets to suck his dick, and then she wakes up, and turns out he's not actually doing that, and then the movie in itself is quite annoying that way, where it uses a lot of dream sequences to further the plot. And then at that point you can maybe say, oh, is it really happening or is it a dream sequence? But yeah, there's a lot of weird imagery in this, the whole Stanley Kubrick style, especially with the hallways. A lot of Wicker Man references as well. There's a scene in it where they're naked women walking down this hallway and they're all wearing animal masks, just like in the Wicker Man, which is was better done in the Wicker Man, and the imagery and all that is better done in The Shining, because The Shining actually builds up to something. So, The Lords of Salem, in short, is basically Sherry Moon Zombie is apparently related to Hathorn from The Crucible. Yeah, this movie borrows a lot from movies like The Crucible, movies like The Shining, movies like The Wicker Man. It kind of combines them in together, but puts it in a hallway. If you imagine a movie like that, like these three movies put in a hallway, but then eventually, this door opens up and it's a theatre or a church. Yeah, there's a lot of religious symbolism, there's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of characters that go nowhere. There's a scene where she's walking her dog. The reason I'm saying it like this and just coming across as a jumbled mess is because that is exactly how it feels in the movie. If there's no payoff at the end and there's no conclusion at the end where you can say, right, everything was building up to that. The pacing problems are definitely there. They're there to see for everyone. Cool imagery, yes. Acting, serviceable. Story, question mark, because I don't really know. Something to do with a child, but I don't know if Sherry Moon was ever actually impregnated, because near the end she's lying on a table and there's blood coming from her vagina and it's going absolutely everywhere. Not sure if that's how pregnancy works. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of screaming, a lot of other pish. But yeah, there's a scene in where she's walking her dog and there's this guy with like a stone face or something walking towards her, and then he's not there, and then there's exactly is there. It's like a cheap jump scare or just a cheap scare. The atmosphere in this movie, again, very underwhelming. No one's really melodramatic in this movie, which is pretty cool, except the main witch, which she's seen throughout the movie. And in the trailers, it's kind of misleading because there's a scene where like Sherry Moon's walking by and she's like standing in the bathroom, and that to me was that I kind of felt that this would have been like a kind of Insidious / Crucible style movie, and I really wish it had been, because that was the way the trailers were leading it up to be. That Insidious style where it had like we went into the other world and there was a lot of creepy atmospheric shit going on. And I think Rob Zombie, the way he kind of directed this movie, putting in a lot of good imagery, could have done it that way, and I think it would have been a more successful movie. I mean, like the idea of borrowing elements from Insidious, it's not exactly as if people don't do that. I mean, you've seen Annabelle and Ouija. These movies borrow heavily off other kind of poltergeist style movies. So what's the point in not? Yeah, I say poltergeist because that's getting remade. So if he would have done a Crucible style movie, but with Insidious style like scares and tones and using that atmosphere, I think this would have been a hell of a lot more successful movie. I mean, the poster in itself actually looks like that was what he was kind of going for. The trailer made it look like that, but there wasn't anything like that. I don't know what the movie was truly about, because it didn't really do too much to explain it. It was just weird images with this character. So obviously we're following Sherry Moon Zombie as she goes into this room that's uninhabited, and then there's a big cross and she goes like that to the cross, and then giving a priest a blowjob, and then having this rock face guy walk up to her but then not walk up to her, and then she wakes up, and there's a lot of, the dream sequences annoyed me. Fucking annoyed me in Halloween 2. So what does he do? He uses it 6 more times in this movie. Why not? There's another scene where he goes, she's I don't know, there's like this little demon thing, and she's holding 2 things that resemble dicks. Did that impregnate her? Is that what it was supposed to be? Because nothing went up there. So I'm just saying, like, what, can you get pregnant with your hands now? Apparently there was a relationship with her co-star, because he phones her and he's like, are you okay? Please don't hang up. So that in itself is actually pretty interesting, because we can see the co-star, the bearded co-star, he's a bearded guy in this movie, and he tries to help her. They have a relationship, and it's nice to see that is actually done well in this, that relationship. However, there's only maybe 3 scenes dedicated to it, so ultimately, again, leads to nothing. And also the end of this movie is basically, it's just a look at her walking her dog with a smile on her face. So, like, did all of that happen? We don't know, but I mean, in that sense, you leave the movie going, I don't know what the fuck just happened there. There's a lot of weird things, but it doesn't really resonate with me because there's not an overall satisfactory conclusion. Now, I said that this was going to be one of the movies that I was looking forward to seeing because it was the religious bashing, and The Lords of Salem reminded me of The Crucible, like Arthur Miller, and I liked... The Crucible was essentially talking about McCarthyism. This basically just takes it literally like witchcraft is what The Crucible meant. Let's do a movie on that. Rob Zombie's smarter than that. I probably wouldn't think that, but this is essentially what the movie's about. It's about witchcraft and summoning Satan, but Satan never really gets summoned, or maybe he does. Maybe he's one of the creepy, weird characters in the movie. I don't know. It never explains it. The Lords of Salem is definitely disappointing. I actually recommended watching it because it had all this religious imagery, and I thought it would have been like a kind of Exorcist and City style movie focusing on, aspects of the Crucible. Maybe, the whole end of it is devil's not real, but it wasn't like that at all. It was weird, beautiful looking movie, ultimately disappointing. I kind of compare this movie to Under the Skin a bit, with Scarlett Johansson, or Johansson, whatever. It's filmed in Scotland, and I bought the movie and I thought, this is going to be good because, it's filmed in Scotland, Scarlett Johansson, she's good. And honestly, it wasn't that great. It was an underwhelming kind of movie. Most of it was her driving around with a weird look in her face, and then the ending, it's a shit ending, and, she dies, and that to me is unsatisfactory as well. I mean, for all she does in the movie, there's not too much. Again, it's a good looking movie, just like this movie, but not a lot happens, and the things that do happen become quite irrelevant because at the end of it, there's an unsatisfactory conclusion because she dies. Now, granted, that with Under the Skin, and there's a point where she wants to be human and she couldn't be human, but whatever else. With this one, it's a bleeding vagina. And that's how I'm ending this fucking review. The Lords of Salem is a bleeding vagina.